Good morning and aloha and welcome to Lucy's Paradise Podcast. Today we have Keith Sanks with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And just tell us a little bit about you and how we know each other.
My name's Keith Sanks. I'm actually from Utah, and was actually in the military for 10 years. And we met at like a modeling thing, I think, last year, something like that.
Beginning of the year, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how we got to know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really surprised that you were like here all of a sudden, that you like moved out here.
Yeah, actually, so I'd been applying for various different jobs for cybersecurity. It's kind of what my background is, and I mean, I was trying for all these different places, and like, because I was living in Denver at the time, and I was not even getting like an interview at all. And then
That's crazy.
I know, right? And then I applied for places in Hawaii because I started thinking about it. I was like, well, if there's any place that I've lived at that at least has like really nice views that is actually tolerable, that I could actually that has a lot of things that I want to be able to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And be like, well, I guess Hawaii is actually pretty nice. So then I started applying for places out here, and then like it was like the second job that I applied for, I immediately got like a call back for, and just talked with the guy about it, and he was like, yeah, like, and then he even wanted to change the position that I was given because of my experience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So I was like, well, that's pretty nice. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, make me the CEO, bro. Like, go
Technically. So I got that job. So then I just flew back out here. I mean, this was like, I was stationed out here when I was in the Navy. It was my last duty station before I got out.
Oh, okay. Nice. Where were you stationed? Pearl Harbor or Hickam?
Actually right next to Schofield.
Oh, okay. Wheeler?
Not Wheeler.
Oh, okay. Just over there.
Over there.
In the cave.
in the cave.
So let's talk about your book a little bit.
Okay.
I'm Here to Offend.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So a book, I'm Here to Offend, is, I mean, it's...
Will I be offended?
So probably not you.
Yeah.
Like, I know that like you're a really good person, and so you probably won't be offended by it.
I'm pretty open-minded, I would say.
Yeah. So it's not really meant or geared towards like, it's not really geared to offend anyone, but exactly the people that it's supposed to offend.
That should read it, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Exactly.
I'm excited to read it.
So, yeah, it's mostly intended to be offensive to, I mean, people that are religious.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, that's exactly who the target audience is.
Yeah. Like the religious, like, judgmental type, that it's like if you miss like one church session a day,
or even like
something.
believing in, oh shoot, I just used that word. I don't like the word believe. If you have views on
like the word believe.
higher beliefs, that's kind of what it's geared directly towards. And to offend exactly those individuals.
Yeah. And it's about your life a little bit, right? Like your
Yes,
experience.
there's a lot about my life.
Yeah. What like life experience you think like is the most detrimental, I think, for like the contents of the book, or like or I don't know, like for you?
What do you mean?
Like what life experience that you had that like shaped like how you think about everything? Like the most impactful thing that you've been through.
Most impactful thing?
Yeah. I know I'm getting like real deep real fast, but
Yeah, I got to think about that.
because one of your chapters is basically leaving Mormonism, right?
Yes.
So there had to have been some sort of series of experiences or singular experience that altered the way that you grew up, right? Because if you're grew up into something, to be able to branch away from that, it takes something. It takes a series of events or a significant event, right? So I'm just curious. Were there significant events?
I'm glad you actually asked this question.
Okay.
So what I realized, right, is that it's not enough to be able to just say like, oh, I'm not Mormon, right? Because like, so what? Like, what does that even mean to say that like, oh, I don't have those values or those kind of things I associate with anymore, unless I explicitly tell a person that, they're not going to like even like the thought would never even occur.
Yeah, right.
Because most of the time, right, like you're just gonna see people, you'd be like, you just make assumptions about them, you know, about like who that person is, what they do in life. And that's one thing that I realized with the number of people that I've encountered. Like, let's see, how do I articulate this one?
The facial expressions for this podcast are going to be really good.
It's like, what, I mean, like, those that are religious, like, you wouldn't even, like, they wouldn't even know that, like, oh, yeah, that person is definitely religious. Like, I see them go to church. Like, that's about it, right? Unless, like, you are, like, you physically go to it.
Or, like, they're singing in the choir at the church, you know?
Right.
Right.
Other than that, like, no one would ever guess that individual actually really is religious or not, right? Because it's through actions that you prove like what your true values are. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So anyone can say that, oh yeah, they're religious, but are they, or are they just saying that they are?
I think people also have different definitions of religious, but I don't think anyone considers themselves religious and doesn't go to church. You know what I mean? I think it's more associated to like actually attending. You know what I mean?
Oh, I could tell you stories about specific individuals who claim to be religious and don't go.
Well, their definition might be different. Like, you know, because I know people that like stream it on TV and like watch it every time it comes on or whatever. So technically, I know like during COVID too, like they didn't want a lot of people showing up in person. So my specific church, they already live streamed it, but they were encouraging people to like stay home and watch it, you know, because of COVID. And so some people just like stuck with that, and then they just kind of like kept doing that, you know what I mean, instead of coming back. So, but I don't know. I personally like the whole point of like seeing everybody physically there in a group, like, you know what I mean? Like,
so yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's
kind of the part of it that I liked, because I could
just
sit at my house.
Community aspect.
Yeah, the community aspect of it. Yeah.
So that's one thing that I realized that is majority of the time what religion really is all about, is just the community feeling that you get when you're around others in a whole like setting. I think that's kind of like more so what religion really is more about.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that could be your
they've
opinion.
done that. I mean, they've done like studies about that whole thing. Like there is like a social aspect, a social benefit aspect to like community feeling involved feelings. Like there's actually like a whole thing with that. And so like, yeah, when you have like others that, I mean, like, cause you would never know, right? Like, cause like we could like be sitting in church and just like listening to exactly what the guy is saying in front of at the podium, and like you could like be like, oh, this guy's just boring as hell. Oh my God. And then I could be there like, oh yeah, and that guy is saying a lot of stuff that I just really, really like for some reason. I don't even know. Wow. But like that's about like all that's ever gotten out of that kind of thing when it comes to at least the Mormon church. Like it is literally like you're just sitting there and like listening to a guy.
Do you have experience with any other church, or just
So-
Mormon church specifically?
So I'm glad you asked that. I actually went to actually while I was stationed here, I went to a Buddhist temple because I was like, I don't think I can do Mormon church, and like for me, it was a real psychological like challenge. Like, okay, well, if I'm not going to have this for like a belief system, like I need something. Like it just feels like I need this, like something.
Some sort of structure or
Yes.
so I just want to back up a little bit. So like when you were growing up, were you just like brought to your Mormon church like as a child? Like,
Sometimes I had to walk.
okay.
I mean, it was like
But like your parents influenced you to attend regardless of what you knew about it in the
highly
beginning, right?
influenced to attend.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel like that can be detrimental. I don't know if that. I'm still on the fence about whether that's good or bad. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a different experience that it was similar in a way that my dad would bring me, but he never really like pushed anything like a belief, like pushed things like down my throat, like to you need to be like this and believe this and do, like he's very like my dad's attitude about everything was very laissez-faire. Like my dad was very, very, very chill. You know what I mean? Probably like to a fault, which is, you know, but it was more like I was tagging along with him. It wasn't like he was like, you
Yes.
have to attend and learn everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was for me, it was a different experience because I didn't feel like it was being pushed at me. I just felt like I'm here because my dad wants to be here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's not how you experienced.
No,
Yeah.
no. Well, I mean, like to an extent,
Mormons.
it kind of was like kind of similar with that. I mean, so my entire family, like, there was me, my dad, and my 3 sisters, and this is like where it became really challenging because like certain individual in my family would conveniently get sick every Sunday right when church started.
Your mom? Or
I'm not gonna say it. You did. It was like it was like a surprisingly like clockwork. Somehow that just happened. So it was really just my dad and my sisters and myself that would attend every Sunday.
Okay.
And so, I mean, there would be that like we would all be like attending, faithful like churchgoers, and like fully participating, and then like, so unfortunately for me, right, like because I only have sisters, I don't have brothers at all,
Right.
and I think that for me was actually more detrimental than anything, because then like
Good or bad?
in a bad way, I mean, because here was like the other boys like in the like they eventually like left, like they stopped attending as well. I was eventually it was just me in the room with like the bishop and the one leader, and like I just didn't have the cognitive ability to be like I don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
Like this is just terrible. I mean, it was
Yeah.
also like the 90s.
Can't you like not drink caffeine if you're a Mormon? Or
Yeah.
something?
So it's
That would
weird.
get me.
It's weird.
That right there would get me. I'd be like, what?
It's weird. So it's called, it's the word of wisdom. That's what it's called.
Anything that alters like you or whatever, right? Is like the
Yeah.
part of it. That's. I'm trying to
And
get
so like, well, what it really is, right? Because they don't even in the word of wisdom, right? It doesn't even specify what they even mean by it. All it says is hot drinks are not for the body. And so at the time, and that's like where it comes to like personal, like,
So you hot cocoa?
so there are some Mormon
know?
families that will not drink hot cocoa because it's a hot drink.
So is it true that in your experience, this Mormon religion, like everybody has like their own slight spin because it's so vague.
There are the
Like that
the
would be
vagueness.
frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
like
there's
too vague.
so that's what I was kind of getting to. Is there's like
Is
there
that
are
kind of
those
what stirred you away a little bit? You're like, what the fuck? Like,
Actually,
be specific,
so,
bro.
no, actually it was a lot.
At least Christianity is like, don't steal, don't kill.
It was a lot that had to like really. Oh my gosh, because
So that's just maybe part of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
That would be strange to me too.
and
even
some
as-
Mormons, they'll drink energy drinks. They won't drink coffee.
But I could argue that coffee is like more natural, right? Because it's from a coffee bean.
Yes, but it's
But it's not about
but
that.
because you got to go back to the history of the church and when coffee was like a thing, and then they were like,
Right. Back then,
oh
they were,
no,
like, against it,
this
yeah.
is like keeping us awake. We should not be staying awake
I'm
like this.
more productive. What?
This is
I
not
could attend
good, you
church
guys.
longer, guys. Like, why is
This is
that?
not good, okay? I don't know why, but we need to stop.
Kind of
Like,
like when the government tells us weed is bad.
So,
that?
I mean,
Remember
like,
that, guys?
so that's all like, I mean, you read like the history books and then it's like, oh, this is like why it was just, I mean, that was all like racial profiling kind of stuff. That was, I mean,
Yeah.
read your history facts, folks. It was just,
I think they also
Government.
the government couldn't figure out how to make a profit off of it. So they're like, it's illegal.
tax it.
Yeah, but I think it was
I
by
mean,
that.
look at moonshine.
Yeah, but I think in that, like, in that time, I don't know, it was probably easier to demonize it and just, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
And
it
it
is
was already
easier.
like
I mean, you
most
should
likely
s-
controlled by like other entities already. You know what I'm saying? So
I
it's
mean,
like,
you should look at like the news or the newspapers and the articles that they
Yeah,
had
yeah,
at the
no, I
time.
have. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
watched
they-
whole documentaries about it. Yeah,
Yeah, they show
really
like
fucking
how
crazy. They make it
like-
look like you're gonna be like turn into Satan if you like get
Yes.
high one time. Like, okay, that's a little extreme.
Yes. So there's that. And then yeah, so there's so much left to like personal interpretation, and then they even like how the Mormon Church actually addresses this, right, is personal revelation. They allow for people to make choices for their own lives and families. That's cool.
Oh,
So that's where the whole like personal interpretation on things comes into play. Where it's
but
okay.
how is everybody else like as accepting of that? Like, are people like accepting? Like,
I mean, except
you drink energy drinks, I drink coffee, and like, but you know, like, are they like, oh, okay, whatever, or are they like, do they like stick their nose up at certain families?
Some families do.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering.
Some families, like, I mean, depending on, I mean, and Utah is really notorious for this. There are some areas in Utah that are much more stringent about, like, Mormon beliefs than other areas. I'll tell you that.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's like
So how old were you when you were like, I'm out, guys?
I was 27 when I had my first
27?
drink of alcohol.
Wait, so you just left the church and you got drunk? Like,
No, actually,
what's
so
the
it was.
connection there?
So I mean, it was.
You just
it was,
rebelled?
It was like, I mean, no, like it is a hard process. There's even a book about it, like how isolating it can actually be when a person chooses not to be like religious anymore. Like it's
No, because they like exile you or whatever, right?
so
Technically, or whatever.
so it's not as
They block you on Facebook. Like,
they
what do do?
block you on Facebook. Like how dare you? No, it's not as harsh as typically. It's not as harsh as like Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses are the worst. They really are, because they don't even want to celebrate like, oh, today's kind of a good day because it's like your birthday. It's like a day that we can celebrate like you
Yeah.
being born.
Yeah.
No, you
We're not going
We're
to.
not going to. It's just
Yeah.
another day.
I knew a girl in school that was a Jehovah's Witness, and I was like, so I was asking her questions, and I was like, so like, what do you do when it's your birthday? Like, so like, do you ever get like gifts randomly? Like, how does that work? And she was like, no, I just get like a yeah, like she got like a surfboard randomly, and I'm like, and then they just say it's like has nothing to do with your birthday, like like they just bought it for your birthday, like just say it, you know, but yeah, it was like strange. I was like, okay, so they just gave it to you like after your birthday, like like what the fuck?
Like today's a good day
Yeah.
to just.
We're just gonna buy you a surfboard.
We'll get you a surfboard.
I
Why
was like,
not?
shit, I wish my parents would just buy me a surfboard.
That would be really nice. Well, it would have been really nice to have not lived in Utah.
Yeah.
It would have been really amazing. My whole entire family would be completely different if we were not born and raised in Utah. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought you were.
I was.
Yeah. So 27, you're like, I'm out. I'm gonna go get drunk real quick. What was your first drink you ever had?
Blue Moon.
That's pretty. It's better than like Pabst Blue Ribbon or something. I think I had like Mike's Hard.
I mean, I was looking at the menu forever. I was like, I don't even know what these things are that I'm
like,
looking
I want
at.
one of everything. Must try all.
And then I actually know it was actually a slower process because then I was like looking at like the alcohol content of them, and then I saw like, oh, Blue Moon has like the least amount. I'll go with that.
That's so funny. He made the Mormon choice
Yeah.
of beer.
And then
beer.
even the gal that I was with, and she like took a photo of me like sitting there with the beer, and I sat there for like an hour before I drank it. And she's
because you
like,
were so programmed
yeah,
that it was bad.
yeah.
So how do you free your mind?
Say again?
How did you free your mind?
Shrooms.
Okay.
Shrooms actually like
Freed you a lot.
yes. I wish so much that like I had shrooms much sooner in life. It would have been entirely life altering. I know that.
Yeah. So you were 27. I think I did shrooms for the first time. Must have been like 2015. So maybe I was like 25, 26 maybe. Yeah. It was a good time. It's a very giggly time. But yeah, like shit clicked. Actually, I did shrooms with one of my ex-girlfriends in Los Angeles. She just got married. It was funny. But we did shrooms together a few times, and one of the times that we tripped together, we realized that we were like not like we shouldn't be together. It was so fucking sad. I was like, okay. Like, yeah, it was like it would have been the worst, but we were so like in that headspace that like there was just such a level of like acceptance. Like it's still like it didn't ruin like the high or anything. Like I didn't like cry surprisingly or anything like that, but like the next few days after, I was like, damn, that was fucking crazy. Like we both like realized something and like we're on the same wavelength, and we're just like, okay, cool, now we know. All right, cool. All right, we're still high. Like this is awkward now, but yeah, it was crazy. And I tell people that story and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude. Imagine being super high with the person you're dating and being like, yeah, we shouldn't, this isn't a thing. Yeah.
That is wild.
It was wild. Yeah. But it helps you realize shit, I guess. But
Yeah, it really does. I will say that. And that's kind of what I really like. That's like the stinger for what I really want to get across to those that might be religious, choose to read it, and then be like, oh, psychedelics actually do kind of explain more about things than sitting in front of this freaking guy listening to him just spout off his life. Like, I don't even care about this freaking guy at all, and here it is, I'm sitting here listening to him.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. That's interesting. Well, religion is like man-made, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah, when you're like in that psychedelic headspace and you're like in tune with like everything around you, it's different, you know what I mean? Do you believe in a higher power at all?
No.
Oh, okay. So you don't believe in any type of higher power?
That's why I wrote the book, to kind of explain out,
Mm.
like, so I've actually worked for the NSA.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked there in Denver.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah.
Don't say anything. It's gonna get you like assassinated.
Actually, I submitted my book to the NSA for approval. I have to now for anything that I have published. I have
Oh.
to submit it to them for approval.
Okay, so
for,
they didn't. I mean, you didn't like mention it. Right?
no, and I even so I mean
The
the
NSA
only
told me that Mormonism is trash, and then they're like, "Wait a second."
so that was like one thing that boy oh boy. So one of the various different things I kind of learned about are like logical fallacies.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with those?
Mm-hmm.
So there's appeal to a higher power fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that one kind of explains out that, like, oh, you're trying to use like some type of higher power to justify what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I think there are people that do that for sure. You know?
Like religious people.
Yeah, like overly religious. I remember one time, one of my friends, he was like dating this girl, and they were like that couple that was like probably gonna like be together forever or whatever, right? And one day she was like crying and like called me up and said that like they broke up or whatever, and I was like, that's strange. And she said, yeah, he said that God told him to do it. And I was like, what? I don't think God is like meddling in your life like that. You know what I mean? Where he's gonna be like, dump her, you know? Like, it was like, what? I'm like, girl, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see.
Do you think God told him to dump her?
No, I think he just got
Yeah.
sick of her, probably.
He just got sick of her. He was like, yeah, no, God told me to dump you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I don't know. That was interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of like how, I mean, the founder of the Mormon church was with everything. And like one thing that like really helps a person, like for me, right? Like something that really helped me like be able to break things down were the books that I listened to. So I listed them all out in my book, like all the references. I referenced a lot of various different things.
Like books. Oh, so you mentioned Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like
So
like a lot of his stuff.
So one thing that I was never taught, and none of my members of my family were ever taught, and I mean it was certainly never said ever in the community I was raised in.
Mm-hmm.
The phrase "I think," saying "I think," like that was never a thing.
Interesting. So what would they say?
Well, I mean everything was like more about like being right.
Okay. Interesting. That could be really annoying.
Yeah.
Would you just like debate these people constantly? I'd get so fucking irritated, dude.
So,
You know?
I mean, this is like what I started like realizing. This is kind of more the psychological aspect that I had to like kind of work through. And so, I mean, that's where the book really helped out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's like, and then it even like the book that I put down, like it even helped explain out like why it is that you should say like, I think this, because then it separates you from your thoughts. It means that like you're not your thoughts. It's just like your thoughts are just what they are. It doesn't make you. They aren't you. So like I was like, that's really interesting. No one's ever really said that to me before.
Yeah.
So to say I think this or I think that, like that's, I really never thought about that before.
That's interesting. So what is your relationship now with your family?
I've like kind of estranged myself from,
You exiled yourself.
yes.
I see. I see.
Oh my
I could only imagine it would be difficult to bond with people once you've reached that like other level of thought process, you know? That it's like But what's interesting is like you've actually like understood them more as well. You know what I mean? And this is what I find with people that are religious or specifically closed-minded is they're not ever willing to learn about the other person.
Yes.
It's always about them. It's
Yes.
very like narcissistic. It's very like
Yes.
me. And I find that really interesting, you know?
This is another reason why I wrote the book. How
Yeah.
about that? I even
about
wrote
that?
about freaking the psychological like problems. So
okay.
I even asked like, so one of the things that really proved to me that like, oh, okay, yep, I was raised with a narcissist and my dad's passive aggressive. Okay, so I asked my mom. I asked my mom how a proposal went between my mom and dad.
Oh, okay.
Because like
Interesting.
so that was really like when it hit me like, oh yeah, there is no God.
Okay.
Because
You're like Satan set this marriage up.
no
I'm
joke.
just kidding.
So because then I was like, with how people. Okay, so I've got to be honest. A lot of people
Please.
react very, very particular to me. I got to be honest about that.
Okay.
There's like people respond very. People are typically not comfortable around me. Just because of my looks.
Yeah. It's probably because you do hear this thing with your eyes. But nobody scares me, so I already know you're a good person, so.
See, like that's good. My goodness, I don't know why it's so hard to. I would get yelled at so much in the Navy just because like the way that I would act, and it's like I didn't know any better. Like it's what I was raised on. Like, and then you're people that like it's. So asking my mom like, how did the proposal go?
Yeah, this is interesting.
So then she told me how one night they went out on a date, and it was my mom who actually posed the question.
Typical narcissist, Nat.
Well, get this, right? So she asked, so are you going to ask me to marry you? And my dad's response was, they're kind of expecting it. That was the proposal.
They're kind of expecting it, like the
Yes.
church.
I think he was referring to his parents.
Oh, okay. They're kind of
But-
expecting it.
They're kind of expecting it. That was my parents' marriage proposal.
That's so romantic.
Yeah.
So romantic. That's wild. So, are you
So I was like,
gonna-
oh. She actually laughed before answering that. I was like, oh my God. There was like no love between them at all. It was.
That's wild.
And then it's like, oh, that explains why I'm here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What did you say to her?
I didn't say anything to it. I didn't know what to say to that. It's like, damn. Your marriage was based on this.
Yeah.
These few words. That was what kept you guys together for so many years, and eventually, like, well, killed my dad. And she moved on and demanded alimony from him till they freaking died.
Wait, so they got divorced
He
or separated?
was going through dementia,
Oh shit, that's tough.
and
That's
so
really
I-
difficult.
yes.
You know, you gotta love somebody.
But the
take care of them.
circumstances that actually caused it, this is like where, I'm telling you, like, we needed to get therapy outside the church. Like when I was
Right.
like 10.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that had happened, like he would still be alive today.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, it's like a matter of fact at this point. My goodness. Like they probably would not be together, and it would probably been for the best, because then
Right.
they would have realized like, oh, actually I don't love you and you don't love me, and like we were just staying together because we were told we had to,
Yeah.
because that's what the church kind of just tells you you have to be. You are not allowed to get divorced, and like all the freaking
Yeah.
Like, because they made life hell for each other.
Yeah. See, that's not
Because
good.
there
Yeah.
was no, and this is like something that I learned about, and that it was never actually expressed to each other. They never expressed this to each other. They never would use I statements.
Hmm.
They would call each other by name. And then they would just like
So were
say,
you calling them by name too?
hmm?
Were you calling them by name too?
I mean,
I'm just
mom,
curious.
dad, like that kind
Oh,
of
just
thing.
mom and dad. Okay.
But like, they would never say like,
It's not
I
good.
this or I that. Like, there was no responses, like, or even saying like,
How do you
I'm.
think that's like impacted like your view on like love and relationships?
So, oh my gosh.
He's like, fuck, you keep asking good questions. I don't know, just
No,
curious.
it's actually heartbreaking.
Oh.
It's really heartbreaking. It really is.
Yeah.
Because then you realize, like, oh, I was never taught how to use I statements.
Right.
My sisters weren't. They don't even know, like, why they're in the relationships they're in. They're just in them because
They're like zombies almost.
Because it's like they were just living by like what they were told when they were kids, and they're
Right,
just
right.
they don't even want to think about like, oh, maybe we actually had a really screwed up upbringing,
Yeah.
and that's kind of why I think the way that I do, and that's why I think the way that I do things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's hard
There's
to
a-
accept, you know what I mean? It's realizing that is, yeah, it's not easy, you know?
So yeah, so I mean, from the marriage proposal, I realized that yeah, that she's a narcissist and he was passive aggressive, and that's just kind of how they got along with each other, and they just like stayed together because the religion told them they had to.
Yeah. And so for you, like, are you like fearful of like dating because of that? Or like, have you had like negative experiences because of. You don't have to go into it, but.
Well, this is like hard to. So it's negative experience. It doesn't even like it. So like a lot of my upbringing and the way that they were with each other made it challenging to know how to date at all.
Mm.
And like knowing, and I mean like it was reading all these books. It's knowing like what is like what is like a healthy relationship look like?
Right.
What does like any of those things even like, what does it mean to really be in a relationship where you're with somebody that you actually enjoy being with and doing things with?
Yeah.
When I can't even like, there's no like, my parents don't even get along with each other. They just say things to each other, and then they just lay next to each other. Like they just, I mean,
That's so empty, you know? Yeah.
so my parents, I think because they didn't actually love each other, and they didn't know how to get out of the relationship that they were in. They'd accepted everything that the way that it was, and I mean, they would just lay in bed, and that was the life that they made for themselves. That was it. Like they would just lay in bed, and I think it was because like they would not admit to each other that like, I don't love you, you don't love me. They would
Yeah.
rather accept.
Well, they settled, yeah.
They would rather accepted their religion than their own selves.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that is. So do you want to go back to talking about mushrooms?